on lately. And sometimes it can be really easy for us to be focused on the negative or just the day-to-day grind. And sometimes we need to take a step back and think a little bit more about how can we have more joy in our everyday life. And I'm super excited today to be joined by Aline, who is going to talk to us a little bit about how to expand that joy in your life. So welcome.
Yes, welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today, Tiffany. Super excited to talk to you.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you your bio in just a moment. But before I
Yes.
do, why is joy so important?
Because joy is our natural state. We are joy. So we're just going back to our source in a way. That's our purest energy in our hearts, in our energy field, in our beings. Yeah.
So we're just going to be the way we should naturally are. Very
Yes.
excited to explore this conversation with you today. So for those of you watching, I want to introduce you, Aline. She's a spiritual guide, healer, and teacher, establishing solid foundations for spiritual growth and soul fulfillment so you can be your authentic divine self and live your purpose in joy. She masterfully and cleverly blends deep insights about spirituality with practical tips that speak directly to authentic spiritual growth in a modern world. So, how do we begin to expand our joy?
Yes, that is quite a journey, but it begins at coming back to our hearts and returning to the pure place of the heart and releasing a bit from the mind, from all the have tos and shoulds and musts of the mind, of these filters, all these fears and shame that we feel here and there that are actually holding ourselves back. If we think about it, when we stop ourselves, we're stopping ourselves from being. That's what we're doing. We're not stopping just one specific action or one specific thing. We are holding ourselves back. We are letting ourselves not come through us and manifest into our lives and into this planet. And when we're doing that, we're actually creating stagnation inside of us because we're holding it back, That creates stress, that creates tension. Because the more we are acting out of alignment with what we truly want, the more we get this stuckness, this confusion, because we're not allowing ourselves to flow through. So joy is this state that we allow ourselves to be. We just follow ourselves. And I know there's quite a few tricky things there, like who am I? What is it that I want? There's many questions that many times are not that easy to answer. So it becomes a little bit of a process. But in the end of the day, it's a process of us being ourselves and releasing ourselves from this mind, because the mind is so busy. The mind is shouting at us. The mind is so worried. But the heart whispers. The heart is so spacious. The heart cares. So different from the energies of the mind. So that is the path through the heart. Yes.
And I would think that if we can be who we're meant to be, it just like you talk about the stress, that has to be really hard to live in that and be in that space.
Yes, it's painful. It creates so much suffering, and we have come to a place where we accept that. We think that is a standard and normal, and that life is just like that. And don't get me wrong, life is challenging. We need challenges to grow, and that's fine. But there's a huge difference between challenges and constantly hustling, constantly struggling. Challenges, we see the challenge, like I want to beat this, I go there and I train. Hustling, struggling are not what we came here for. We came here to live. We came here to live and to grow. And if we're living in this place that everything is a struggle, everything is a problem, everything is like heavy, then we have some things to clear in ourselves to be able to go back to the space of spaciousness, because the nature of life is spaciousness. If you think about it, see, the universe is so vast. See this planet, the oceans, the forests, the deserts. Think about our cells. Most of our cells are actually space, emptiness. And somehow we got used to living busy, cluttered lives. There's something a little bit out of order in the harmony of the universe here, in a very basic level. And creating that spaciousness means exactly that, allowing ourselves to flow through, to be ourselves, to not create that stuckness that comes from the fears, from the shame, Because many times when we feel confused and feel lost, that is just a side effect of us not allowing ourselves to be. We hold ourselves back so much that at some point life doesn't flow through anymore, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. So we've got to get in the right space. How do we begin to address that or deal with that?
So when we talk about the heart, it is so much about releasing the heart from its heaviness, because we're holding so much back. It is about how can we cultivate a heart that is light as a feather. And it is tricky. I'm not going to say it's easy. Life makes it very tricky. It's a training ground for us to learn how to create that spaciousness. So we can talk about giving and receiving.
Okay.
Giving and receiving. How can we receive? How well are we as receivers when people give us gifts or compliments or just a smile? Can we soften and receive? Because it's not because somebody's actually giving you a physical thing and you receive it that you actually receive it with your heart, like thinking, oh, this was such a nice gift, like feeling worthy of it and appreciating it and happy with it. Many times we receive things, we don't know how to handle them.
Yeah,
We
I would
receive,
say
yeah.
there's a lot of people that have a hard time receiving.
Yes, for sure.
Why do people have a hard time receiving?
Well, many people are pretty good at one and not so much good at the other. You know, some people are big givers and don't know how to receive, and some people are big receivers, but they don't know how to give. And both of them will create a stagnation, because the spaciousness, the light as a feather happens when both happen, when nothing stagnates anywhere, you know? So some people have a little bit of this thing that they have to help everybody, but they don't know how to be helped themselves. Other people just want to be helped and don't know how to give. So it's good that we ask ourselves, in which end are we? When people give us a compliment, do we say a compliment back right away to deflect? Or can we actually appreciate it, that and take that into our hearts? It's like, oh, thank you. Thank you for seeing me. Appreciating the simplest things. So being a good receiver and also being a good giver. Because many times we want to give something to somebody we love, or somebody that we just appreciated, like let's say a colleague, and we see something in the street that really reminds us of them, and we want to just take them to them. But we don't, because we start thinking, this is so silly. What would they think of us? This is not good enough, and we hold back. The heart just wants to give. It just saw something beautiful and it just wants to spread it, and we cut that. We cut the expression of ourselves and of our hearts all the time. And we cut that through these walls that we build. And those walls exist in both ways, in the giving and the receiving. Can we give for giving's sake without caring if the person's going to laugh at us or not, just for the sheer pleasure of expressing something we enjoy? And the same thing with the receiving. Can I allow myself to take things in, to appreciate them, to be seen, to be heard, to feel worthy? This is major in connecting to our hearts and allowing our hearts to express themselves. Because what is holding it back is the mind making judgments. And right there, we get out of our hearts, and right there, we get out of joy. Yeah. So, yeah.
And it's interesting because I think about this idea of the give and receive sometimes, because we talk about giving in the referral world and business world. And I know so many people are like, yeah, I love to give, but I don't like to receive. And I'm like, well, if you love the feeling you get when you're giving, but you're not open to receiving, then are you impeding others from having that same sense of joy?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And also, life only happens if there isn't a constant exchange, It's a constant exchange happening. We cannot just be on one end. It doesn't work, because it breaks the exchange of life, which means it breaks life. Life is not static, life is always moving. If the heart stops beating, it's done. If we stop eating, drinking water, like there's a constant energy exchange and energy being processed, you know? And if we're not allowing that energy to be exchanged, if we're only giving and not receiving, yes, we are cutting other people from their flow, and then we stop the flux of life. And this is the most crucial flow, so to speak. Like, to be alive means constantly exchanging. Yeah.
So we can work on being better givers and receivers and
Yes.
finding some harmony of doing both. So maybe if you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, am I a giver? Am I a receiver? And yes, we wanted to do both. That's an amazing way to expand that joy.
Yes. At first, it's good to just do for the action themselves, even if we don't feel it. Actions are the best way to reprogram ourselves, and slowly the emotions come together. We cannot wait to feel like it to do something. It doesn't work like that, because then we might never feel like it. And we always feel like things that are easy, and life is challenging. That's how we grow. So sometimes we have to like dare to take that step, just take that step. Doesn't need to be like pushy. Just a slow, a gentle step every day can do wonders.
We don't have to jump all the way into the deep end right away. We can put our toe in to get started, then maybe step in, get a little bit deeper.
Yes, I mean, if different people will have different ways. Some people wear jumpers, other people take steps, and it's okay. Both work. As long as we are moving, everything's fine.
Well, I think we have time for, do you have one more tip for us on how to expand the joy in our life?
Yes. So together with this idea of all right, so I'm going to actually talk about something completely different. I changed
Okay,
my mind.
yeah, let's I like to call these Tiffany tangents. Like, we're going to go somewhere different. Let's go
Yes.
somewhere different.
Another important thing to notice is how we do things. We pay too much attention of what we do. Like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Is so much about what? Like, oh, I love cooking, so it's about cooking. It is not so much about what we do. Of course, the what we do is important, but the how we do it is as important. Because I can love cooking, but I can also be cooking thinking about something that happened in the office today and completely not present with the thing that I say that is what I love the most. Paying attention to our state of mind with our presence so that we're actually fully there is what allows us to enjoy. So the exactly same thing can bring completely different experiences depending on how we're doing them. So if we start bringing more attention, more awareness to how we do things in life, we can increase our joy tremendously. So that for me is a massive tip, the power of how.
So can you give us, I know you kind of said cooking and the mindset. Can you give us a little bit more of a expanded example of that?
So, for instance, like maybe I say that I love going to nature. That's my very favorite thing in life. Every Saturday, I go to nature. I can be in nature, completely immersed in nature, smelling nature, walking and enjoy this beautiful scenery with an empty mind, fully there, and then I definitely love it. Or I can be there right after a discussion with a partner and not having resented and just like venting and like fumbling and like just going back like I am there, but I'm not really there. The how is about being there intentionally, coming back to why am I here? What am I doing? I can be in a company meeting completely without any intention and just like following the schedule that somebody else created. Or I can come in alignment with myself like, why am I here? Why does this meeting matter? And that automatically brings a different how, a different mindset. I'll be there in a different way. I am at the same place. It's the same what, it's the same meeting. But my how is different. And because of that, I am different. And because I am different, the what is going to be experienced differently. Does that make it more clear?
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I know, like, I'm thinking about yoga because some days I'm like, oh, I just have to go to yoga, and I could be doing this and this, and it's not as joyful as if I'm going like, oh, I'm excited to be at yoga today, and I know I'm going to feel amazing afterwards, and it does make for a very different experience.
Yes, for sure. It's so much that we do in our lives is kind of in autopilot. We just go from one thing to the other, like just checking boxes. We're just doing a bunch of whats, but we're not aligning in how we're doing and why we're doing. And then life becomes kind of bland. We're just doing what we tell ourselves we have to do. But why? Why are we doing those things? So coming back to joy requires us to go back to ourselves as like, what do I want to do? And why am I doing those things? Do I really want to do them? Do they actually matter? And from there, I can make more conscious choices based on joy.
Yeah, because there's probably a lot of things a lot of us do in our lives that are on autopilot. We're automatically doing it, and we may not need to.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm pretty sure that we can cut so many of the things that we do.
What's one or two things that you think are usually easy for people to cut that they haven't been thinking about?
I wouldn't say it's easy, and at the same time, it is. But like screen time, for sure. Screen time, be it watching Netflix or podcasts, entertainment in general. I think sometimes we consume too much content. And I say this in connection to what we were saying before of our ability to be ourselves. It is about what wants to come through us. What is it that we want to create? Do I want to start playing guitar? Do I want to create a business? Do I want to write a book? Those things are me being me, which means there's a movement of things coming through me and out of me. So pay attention to this movement, because when we are always consuming books, podcasts, content, the energy is moving outside. It's from outwards inwards. I'm filling myself with stuff. And if I'm always filling myself with stuff, but I'm not creating stuff, I'm bringing too much inside of me that is for nothing and it's just going to stagnate me. I like watching things every now and then. It's beautiful to be inspired, but this is a conscious choice of today I would like to laugh. It's another thing when we're consuming content all the time, reading news all the time, like everything all the time. We're constantly taking things in and not creating enough, not expressing enough. This is again out of harmony. Being ourselves, being joy is understanding what we want to give to the world, what we want to bring into our lives through ourselves. Be it, I want to be a dancer and I want to dance more, I want to sing more, to I want to create a new procedure for medical reasons. I am a doctor, a researcher. Like everybody has the different things that they want to get involved with, different projects, different side projects, whatever it may be. But understanding this balance between why am I taking in so much content all the time? What is it that I'm not creating more in my life? What is it that I would like to bring into my life?
Wow. That is some amazing things for us to be considering.
Yeah.
Now, if people want to get in touch with you, learn more about what you do, all of that fun stuff, how can we find you?
You can find me on my website. That's the best place to find me, alinerem.com. I have a free guide called What is Spiritual Growth that you see down here, alinerem.com/spiritual growth. You can also find me on Instagram. My handle is offline Aline. Or you can find me on YouTube. My channel is Aline Drum, just like it is written here on the website, and you can find me on YouTube. But if you're interested in more spiritual growth, living in joy, and getting back to your heart, I suggest you taking this guide. It is full of treasures to start on your path of being yourself more.
I want to say thank you so very much for being here, sharing these ideas. I highly recommend you go check out our website and think about what more you can do to bring joy into your life.
Thank you so much for having me, Tiffanie. This was a pleasure. It was super fun talking to you today.
It has been a pleasure. Thanks everybody for being here. As always, do be sure that you tune in weekly, and every month we do have our More Abundant Entrepreneurs show. That is the third Tuesday of the month from 3 to 4, where we'll have a segment on more money, more time, and more fun. Happy networking, y'all.